Hello, you're watching TVP World News. I'm Milan Szarawiński. Donald Trump is arranging a trilateral meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy and Russian leader Vladimir Putin. That's one of the key takeaways from yesterday's meeting between the US President, his Ukrainian counterpart, and a group of European leaders. In addition, the leaders gathered in Washington, D.C. spoke about security guarantees for Ukraine, with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte claiming a breakthrough on the matter.
I remember that. I apologize.
This meeting stood out from the previous one mainly because of its atmosphere. But the most important thing is this.
Being here. Thanks so much.
It was agreed that there would first be an objective to establish a bilateral meeting between Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy and Russian President Vladimir Putin at a location to be determined in the coming hours, which would be followed by a trilateral meeting with President Putin, US President Trump and President Zelenskyy. Russia proposed first a bilateral meeting between Ukraine and Russia, and then a trilateral meeting. As I said, we are ready for any format at the leadership level, because only at the leadership level can we resolve all these complex and painful issues. At least for us, they're painful.
A potential ceasefire was also on the agenda of the talks.
I don't think you need a ceasefire. You know, if you look at the 6 deals that I settled this year, they were all at war. I didn't do any ceasefires. And I know that it might be good to have, but I can also understand strategically why, well, you know, one country or the other wouldn't want it.
European leaders like French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, however, disagree with the American president's idea.
In order to organize such a trilateral meeting, your idea to ask for a truce or a ceasefire, at least to stop the killings, as we discussed, is a necessity.
I can't imagine that the next meeting would take place without a ceasefire. So let's work on that and let's try to put pressure on Russia, because the credibility of these efforts we are undertaking today are depending on at least a ceasefire from the beginning of the serious negotiations.
Another point of discussions during Monday's summit was security guarantees for Ukraine. According to the US President, these will be provided by European countries with coordination by the United States.
There'll be a lot of help. When it comes to security, there's going to be a lot of help. It's going to be good. They are first line of defense because they're there. They're Europe. But we're going to help them out also. We'll be involved.
For Ukraine to consider what to do next when it comes to territory, it is important to also know what the situation will be with the security guarantees to prevent Vladimir Putin from ever trying again to invade parts of Ukraine.
Talks to work out the details of these guarantees will start on Tuesday. As stated by Keir Starmer following the meeting, teams from Europe will be arriving shortly to hold discussions with their American partners.
We're now going to be working with the US on those security guarantees. We've tasked our teams, some of them are even arriving tomorrow, to start the detailed work on that. So a real breakthrough on security guarantees. This is something that's been needed for a long time, very important for security back in the United Kingdom, as well as across wider Europe.
The package is the second point, a package of weapons, American weapons, which we do not have, including first and foremost aircraft and air defense systems. There is a package of our proposals worth $90 billion. This is the second part of the security guarantees for us.
During the day, Donald Trump held a 40-minute phone conversation with Vladimir Putin, making arrangements for the meeting between the Ukrainian and Russian presidents.
Ukrainian officials said on Tuesday that despite the ongoing peace talks, Russia launched large-scale attacks on the country's central Poltava region, knocking out local power supplies. Ukraine's Air Force says Russia launched 270 drones and 10 missiles overnight in one of its largest attacks this month. The Air Force said it downed 230 drones and 6 missiles. Russian strikes were recorded at 16 locations. Vitalii Maletskyi, the mayor of Kremenchuk, said the attacks in the Poltava region damaged local power infrastructure and administrative buildings. He said the strikes came as Putin was on the phone with President Donald Trump and revealed the Russian leader's true intent to destroy Ukraine. In a conversation with TVP World, Jenny Mathers, a senior international politics lecturer, said that Vladimir Putin's future plans involve a reshuffle of the European security landscape, including opening countries like Poland up to Moscow's influence. She made the comment while discussing what's next for the Russian leader following the Alaska summit and the subsequent meeting between Donald Trump, Volodymyr Zelenskyy and other European leaders.
His goal of ensuring that Russia has a significant area of influence, sphere of influence in Eastern and Central Europe, those goals have not changed at all. And so, certainly, even if there is a ceasefire or a peace deal in Ukraine, I suspect it's only going to be a temporary pause, because what Putin really wants is a reorganizing of the security architecture in Europe. He really wants to roll back NATO's, enlargement back to where it was at the end of the Cold War. He wants to ensure that the countries that have joined since then, which include Poland as well as former Soviet countries, that all of those countries are vulnerable and open to Russia's influence in the future.
According to Ukrainian MP Evgenia Kravchuk, Russia is not part of security guarantees. We gave up nuclear power in the 90s in exchange for security guarantees that Russia later violated. The Ukrainian policymaker made the comments as talks shift from the meeting in Washington to what comes next. She also warned that Kyiv will only trust security guarantees backed by Europe and the United States.
If we talk what Russia agrees to, it has, it should not interfere in decisions of other countries. And again, I want to underline, Ukraine does not believe in any of the security guarantees from Russia itself. They can put whatever on the paper. We don't believe it. They already signed a paper in 1994, a Budapest memorandum, saying that there will be a guarantor of territorial integrity of Ukraine after Ukraine gave up nukes. Ukraine had one of the biggest arsenal of nuclear power in the 90s. We gave it up, and we got only a paper, and it was violated by Russia itself. So Russia is not part of security guarantees. Only the European continent and the United States could be the security guarantees that Ukraine will believe in.
The president of Republika Srpska, Milorad Dodik, has officially lost his position after a court in Bosnia and Herzegovina rejected his appeal against the decision of a previous court to terminate his powers. According to the election law of Bosnia and Herzegovina, the Central Election Commission is now obliged to call early elections for the president of Republika Srpska, which must be held within 90 days. Now, in response to the court's decision, Milorad Dodik said that he would not accept what he called, and I quote, disrespect for the constitution and the people's will. The Electoral Commission revoked Dodik's mandate after he was given a 1-year prison sentence and a 6-year ban on holding public office for refusing to comply with the Dayton Agreement. Milorad Dodik rejected both the court and Electoral Commission rulings, vowing that Republika Srpska will resist what he called external interventions. Dodik also called on the European Union's peacekeeping mission in Bosnia to position itself on Republika Srpska's borders if necessary. Thousands of anti-government demonstrators marched once again through Serbia overnight, with riot police clashing with protesters in Belgrade. The protest in the country's capital was peaceful until a group of young people, believed to be football hooligans, split from the crowd and hurled stones and flares at the ruling party's offices. The protest began at the monument to Vuk Karadžić and moved toward downtown Belgrade. Marching down one of the city streets, a group split up from the protesters and stopped outside the ruling Serbian Progressive Party headquarters. They then threw flares at the offices, breaking windows on the premises. After the attack, 3 riot police vehicles arrived, forming a cordon to protect the building. The group of unruly demonstrators set fire to garbage containers afterwards, all the while targeting police officers with stones and flares. Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić arrived on the scene 15 minutes following the attack, reiterating that his government will resist and fight the demonstrators. In a historic move, Juras Zienkiewicz, a former Belarusian political prisoner, has launched a groundbreaking legal campaign in New York, becoming the first to sue the Lukashenko regime in U.S. federal and state courts. Leveraging American laws that allow accountability for torture and repression by foreign officials, Zienkiewicz's case marks an unprecedented step in the fight for justice.
Lawyer and activist Juras Zienkiewicz is on a mission. He held a press conference at Warsaw's Belarusian house, during which he launched his legal campaign aimed at holding Belarus and its secret services internationally accountable for repression and torture. He himself spent more than 4 years in a Belarusian prison after being arrested in Moscow and sentenced to 13 years in prison in Belarus on politically motivated charges.
I was lucky because I had American documents, I had American degree, American profession, I had a great family in the United States. They waited for me, but not everybody has this opportunity. Many people, they just being kicked out from the country. They found themselves in a foreign country without no knowledge of language, no profession, no money, and they need money to start.
The freezing of Belarusian assets in the U.S., Zienkiewicz says, could be a way that those imprisoned by the regime could then seek compensation for the damages suffered. Upon his release in April 2025, Zienkiewicz had lost 50 kilograms and had endured torture in prison.
24 hours per day being in one cell, and it was a horrible experience, of course. Also, I have been tortured with electroshocks in prison, in Mazur prison.
In Belarus, if someone speaks against the government, shares opinions that are different, or talks badly about the leader, Alexander Lukashenko, they can be put in jail. According to the Vyasna Human Rights Center, there are almost 1,300 political prisoners held in Belarus today. On Friday, President Donald Trump took to social media where he commented on his recent call with the Belarusian leader, in which the topics included further releases of all remaining political prisoners.
I had a wonderful talk with the highly respected president of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko. The purpose of the call was to thank him for the release of 16 prisoners. We are also discussing the release of 1,300 additional prisoners.
Belarusian authorities unleashed widespread, brutal crackdowns on peaceful protesters in the wake of the 2020 presidential election, which saw opposition candidate Svetlana Tikhanovskaya challenge Lukashenko's 26-year reign. Widespread evidence of vote rigging prompted the mass protests, which saw thousands arrested, including journalists who, like Ksenia Lutskina, were then sentenced to prison and penal colonies.
Your working day, it's 8 hours working day, 6 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week. When I came to the colony, it was 7 days a week of work at the factory. And after the factory, you should work again. You have another kind of work. You should clean walls, you should clean streets, you should bring vegetables, you should clear it. And so you almost have no rest. You're just working all over the time.
Ksenia and Juras are now free, but thousands remain in prison cells, including Polish-Belarusian journalist Andrzej Poczobut, an opposition figure and activist of the Polish minority in Belarus. While the road ahead remains challenging, the efforts to release those who still remain in Belarus prisons ignite hope that they too will one day come home. Alex Maletskyi, TVP World.
North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un says his country needs to rapidly expand its nuclear capabilities in response to a changing security environment. The country's state media reported that Kim made the comments on Monday after the start of annual US-South Korean military exercises. The two countries say the 11-day drills are strictly defensive and include testing an upgraded response to heightened North Korean nuclear threats. According to North Korea's KCNA news agency, Kim Jong-un said the drills were a clear expression of Seoul and Washington's intention to remain hostile and confrontational. He said the security environment required North Korea to rapidly expand its nuclear weapons capability. And with this, we conclude our news bulletin. Please stay with us here on TVP World for more latest news and updates.